I'm just curious, have you ever been through anything difficult in your life? I know many people have, whether it's losing a job, losing a loved one, or even gone through a breakup. I've been through a fair few of these things. And one thing that really helped me was exercise. Exercise helped me massively through my tough period. I really wanted to find out why though. So I've contacted a guy called Pete Cohen. He's a life coach, best-selling author, written so many good books, and also been a coach of Ronnie O'Sullivan for 2 years. So let's go and see what he has to say about exercise and how it impacts us. Let's go.
Hey Louis.
Hi, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good to meet you. Come on in.
So why do you go to the gym?
Good question. Why do I go to the gym? Because I suppose if you think about it, it's a strange thing for any person to do. Because thousands of years ago, people didn't go to gyms. But I suppose I go to the gym because it's a place for me. It's only one of the very few things that I do in my life where it's really not about anybody else. And it's a place where I go to do a job of work. Because this is such a big conversation, but ultimately I love the way exercise makes me feel. And if I don't get that feeling, I'm not very good. And I pride myself on being good in what I do professionally, you know, everything, speaking, coaching. So exercise is like me going to the petrol station. I'm filling myself up, and I have to fill myself up every day.
So do you feel like it's more physical fitness or mental health that you go to the gym?
I just don't think you can separate the two. You know, hundreds of years ago, maybe even 100 years ago, people thought that the mind and the body were split, which is ridiculous because, you know, you have a thought, you feel it in your body. So with exercise, you work in your body, but your brain benefits from it. It's like it benefits everything. It's every part of our body is designed to move. If we don't move, we're dying, basically. So for me, going to the gym it's everything to do with life. It's everything to do with living. It's everything to do with pushing myself, lifting things that are heavy to lift, so that when I let go of those things, I feel alive.
Do you feel some sort of pressure around people to lift heavier weights than you should?
Again, that's a really good question, because maybe I'm fairly unusual, and because most people hate exercise and that's why they don't do it. But I started working in the gym a long time ago, long before you were born. 1989 is when I got a job. So me being fit and strong was really important. I became obsessed with it, about how I looked, how much I could lift. And I could actually lift, I think, more than anyone else in the gym. And then when I joined another gym, there were a lot of people that were a lot stronger than me, and I did feel intimidated. They were bigger and more muscular than me, and I got really caught up in that negative cycle of exercise addiction and a poor self-image.
Do you feel like no matter what gender, people still feel that pressure going to the gym and trying to impress?
Yeah, you know, I think if you look at people and the different phases they go in their life, obviously the first 10 years of our life, first 20 years we're kind of growing, but when we get into our teens, I think we become more insecure and we want to show who we are. So like men want to get their chests out and show, you know, look, I'm big and strong. And women, I think it's more about their abs and their bum and looking in a certain way. There's huge amounts of pressure. But as people get a bit older, like my age, I'm 50 this year, I'm less interested in having a six pack. I just want to get through every day without being in any pain and discomfort. And I want to live a really long life. But I think if you're younger, there's huge amounts of pressure, which is very unhealthy.
So as a life coach and a best-selling author, do you feel a lot of pressure in your work, in your profession?
You know, the thing that we all have in common, we know one thing: we're all designed to move. And if we don't move, our bodies just don't work particularly well. For me, I need to have a strong mind as well. And this doesn't really answer your question, but I'll come back to asking your question. I feel a lot of pressure, full stop, but that's only pressure that I put on myself. There is no pressure. No one's pushing me, like, punching me or pushing me. Ultimately, I put pressure on myself to perform at my best, and there is no other way to perform at my best than to push myself. So in this room, over there, there's, I go to the gym, but there's a Schwinn bike over there, and I look at that as an instrument to make me better. In fact, one of the things I was talking to myself, because I do talk to myself, I don't know whether that's something that you do. You talk to yourself. I was talking to myself this morning, and it hit me because it's not been that cold this winter, but when I do that, it's like insulation. I get heated inside, and it just puts me on my A game. But I'm 50, you're 17. Why do you exercise?
I suppose it's for my mental health mainly, and a bit of physical fitness now.
I know we weren't expecting me to start interviewing you, but I'm curious, what's it like being a 17-year-old in terms of the pressure that you put on yourself? Is that something, what do you think it's like being a 17-year-old in today's world?
Scary, in a way.
Why?
Because there's so many things, and there's so many opportunities, but there's also a lot of bad opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So you could go either way.
And which way are you choosing to go?
The good way.
Because I think one of the big differences between me and you, apart from age, is that when I was obviously your age, we didn't have social media. So I'm always really curious as to what impact that has on people, especially people who want to be fit and healthy and well.
Do you feel like social media has influenced people to go to the gym more and made people feel like they need to look a certain way?
I think, like anything, like there's positives and negatives too. I think a lot of people have maybe been inspired by people who weren't particularly fit and have gone out there on social media and shown what they've done, and people have been inspired by their example. But I think there's the other side of that, which is the hugely negative side effects of people who feel insecure because they look at other people and think, I can never be, never be like that. It is a bit of it's an addiction, social media, and I think if you don't learn how to use it well, then it could definitely work against you, and it could have a real negative effect on you.
Definitely. What is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration is what people are capable of. And that's a really good question, because people will only ever reach their potential by doing one thing. Well, actually a few things, but there's one thing that's an absolute key component, and that is exercise. I don't know anyone who I admire who has had or is successful who doesn't look after themselves mentally and physically. But for me, fitness isn't just about going to the gym. There's this whole mental fitness, which obviously exercise can help, but there's meditation.
How could you deal with meeting the expectations of being a life coach for the Arsenal Football Club? How was that capable? How could you do it yourself?
Well, it was difficult because I don't support Arsenal. So my background was in fitness. I was a personal trainer, and then it didn't take me very long to think, my God, a lot of people have got a lot of issues. And I had a lot of them myself, but a lot of people had issues with the way they were thinking. Because they would join a gym, pay a lot of money, and then after a few days, weeks, they'd not come anymore. So I just became more and more interested in the way people thought, which led me down the road to start working with athletes. And I worked with Arsenal for 2 years. And that was really interesting to see their relationship with exercise, because exercise was, in many cases, was an absolute necessity. They knew if they wanted to perform better, they had to exercise. It was like it was a complete non-negotiable. They couldn't turn up and say, I don't feel like it. And it was interesting because they were in an environment where that was the norm, and we have to help. We can't create those environments for people, but often people love the gym because they can often be around other people who also have similar goals and aspirations.
So I know you worked with Ronnie O'Sullivan. Can you tell me his relationship with exercise?
Yeah, so Ronnie O'Sullivan, 5-time snooker world champion, he came to me because he was in a really bad place. Often people do come and work with me when they're in a terrible, terrible place. You know, they're lost, they're confused, they're depressed. He was depressed. He had a very interesting relationship with not only exercise but food. He used food as a massive form of comfort. So he would eat, he'd put weight on, he'd exercise for a few weeks, he'd stop. I really, really helped him with that in terms of making exercise a gift to himself, a way of dealing with his thoughts, because you know has had depression, and I think many of us have had depression and worry and anxiety because of the way that we think. And I was able to help him change the way that he think by using exercise as a form of therapy. And now, you know, it's a part of his life as opposed to something that he feels that he has to do. And he, you know, he's what now, 44 this year, I think. And he's still one of the best players in the world, beating players who are half of his age, because, you know, he's out there first thing in the morning, exercise, putting his strong foot forwards because he's filling himself up with energy.
So, do you know much about his routine of how often he goes, etc.?
Yeah, so for him, it's all about running. And I introduced him to Sally Gunnell. Sally Gunnell won a gold medal in the Olympics in 1992, broke the world record in 93. I introduced Ronnie to Sally, and then Ronnie got into that environment of Sally and Sally's husband, who trains Olympic athletes. And when you get into that environments make such a huge difference. And some gyms are great because they do have an environment where everyone is welcome. But again, that's I suppose a negative side of it, because a lot of environments in gyms are like, you know, let's check out the gun show. You know, look at me, and it's like, rather than let's all help each other, let's talk to each other. And that's another thing I don't like about gyms. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with listening to music. It can be really motivational, but sometimes there's no communication between people. And I suppose that's the difference between a health club, a club where, you know, it's our club, as opposed to just a gym. In fact, gyms were designed originally for athletes who had retired in America to do something because they had nothing else to do. But yeah, I mean, it's something I'm so passionate about, and I know the difference it makes to people when they get into the routine of it, and it's something that just becomes a part of their life. So it isn't something they feel they have to do, it's something kind of we get to do. We get to blossom, we get to grow, we get to feel good.
Do you feel like exercising and going to the gym could be a form of escapism, to escape from reality and forget about work life and your career?
I think it is for many people, and that's a good thing. You know, a lot of people hate their jobs. So they go to exercise in the morning or after work as a way of relieving stress and tension. And there's no question that is the case for people, and that's amazing. But again, I suppose one man's medicine is one man's poison, and it's something that needs to be managed. I mean, I used to go to a gym, and there was a girl that I'd go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night and get up at 4 and go to the gym. And there'd be a girl that had already been in there for an hour, and she'd be there for 3 hours before she was going to work, and she was extremely skinny. I'm sure she was probably anorexic, bulimic, which a lot of people are. A lot of men now are bulimic, and this destructive, unhealthy relationship with exercise and diet, but you know that can be changed, and I think that's why we need help, and I'm sure that's part of why why are you doing this? What's the point of you? What's your goal out of doing all of this?
I suppose I want to find out whether it's the same as an athlete, a life coach, or your general everyday person, whether everyone feels the same sort of pressure.
Yeah. I think everyone is different. I suppose I hope that ultimately most people will get to a point where they kind of realise just how important it is, and it's not about what other people think, it's just about making this thing work better for you. But I think that's a process for people.
So what do you feel like your biggest achievement has been?
I think there are quite a few, but one of them is definitely to continue to exercise. You know, I think that's a major achievement, to continuing doing anything over an extended period of time, because it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to say, I don't feel like it. So that's a major achievement. But I think, as you know, because we've spoken about this before, You know, my wife not been given very long to live a long time ago, 18 months now, 9 years on, you know, changing her diet was a massive part of that. Being more active, changing her attitude. I just think, I hope that people don't have to wait for something really horrible to happen in their life before they decide to change. Because most people are waiting for a horrible disaster before they go, oh, now I've got to change. Don't wait for that. You know, do something about it right now, today. And my passing comment would be, don't be interested in how you feel. The way you can feel, which is great and fantastic and inspired and alive, is only going to come to you once you've started. The hardest thing to do, just get started. And Nike, they know this, or Nike, because their adage is just do it.
Yeah.
Because they know that you could just do it, but they know that you could also just not do it. It's the same with us. You could just put on your trainers, or you could just not put them on. And I hope people do put on their trainers, whether they try to go for a run or go for a walk, it doesn't matter. Move your body. You will feel better for it afterwards.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with what you're doing. I
Yes,
think
yeah.
it's a really important message to get out there to the world, and I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Wow, I am stunned. I've learned so much. It's so surprising how much exercise can do for us. I didn't know how many things that it would help us with. I'm definitely going to continue to exercise throughout the rest of my life. So what are you going to do? Would you ever consider it to help you? I think you should try it. Just let me know what you think, and we'll see you very soon.